I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today we have Miss Lindsey Jensen. Lindsey Jensen is the founder of Clever Kitty Investing and the creator of a creative finance and systems approach to building rental wealth. She built a $12 million portfolio in under 8 years, starting as a brand new mom running a marketing business from home. And she did it without doing hundreds of deals because she focused on keeping properties rather than flipping them. Lindsey got her start in 2016 after a weekend creative finance event blew her mind. Then negotiated her first deal at 0% interest for a year with nothing down. Many of her first deals were done alongside a mentor split 50-50, so she knew she was doing them right. She learned landlording from the master, David Tilney. She then built the systems that later kept every one of her tenants paying through the 2020 rent moratorium, with only one renter ever falling 30 days behind. What makes Lindsey different is what she teaches second. Plenty of people teach you how to buy a house. Lindsey is one of the few who teaches you how to own it without it owning you. Today she runs over 70 doors in a couple hours a week. And she shows everyday people how to build a portfolio they can actually retire from calmly, honestly, and on purpose. Lindsey, welcome to Dealmaker.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I'm excited about this. So just in your bio, and we were speaking offline, these are my favorite interviews because literally this is mine and your first time meeting. So I always have a lot of curiosity going into these interviews, but just from that bio, a couple things stand out and we'll get into it. But one, I love how you took motivation. It sounds like you went to an event or a conference or something and a switch was flipped in your head, like that really motivated you and that kicked it off. So take us back to that moment. What happened? What did you see there that got you so fired up to go?
I just didn't know creative financing existed. I had never heard of it before. It was my first time hearing about it. So when I found out that you can buy properties the way that people were buying them, and I mean, tons and tons of like zero down deals were explained at this conference and stuff like that, my whole head exploded and I got really excited because I just felt like, oh, there's no cap to that, right? I don't have to have the money I thought I had to have to go buy these rentals. So that was just exciting. And it's funny because I remember telling my dad and he was like, why would anybody do that? And I'm like, and I'm trying to tell the stories. It never comes out the same as when you're there, right? And I just believed it. And so he started seeing me do it and he was like, holy crap, okay, this stuff really works.
So with creative finance, and you were primarily negotiating seller finance deals. Is that the gist of it?
I mean, all of them are technically seller finance. Yeah. I did seller finance subject to lease purchases. A lot of them were with loans that we took over.
Gotcha. So you got the motivation from that. It kind of opened your eyes up, and I've got similar stories in my path along the way where just it's like, why didn't I know this 10 years ago? That kind of thing. But once you find it, you chase it. But I love how you said, or in your bio, that one of your first steps was to link up with a mentor to do deals 50-50 with. And so you were kind of insulating yourself against some of the risk by bringing alongside you somebody with all the experience who could teach you, but also benefit from these deals. So talk about that mindset. Where did that come from? Or was that intuitive to you to just take it and go that way?
So some people may call this a strength. Some people may call this a weakness. I have blind faith sometimes in things. So I joined his mentorship at a time my husband and I didn't have a ton of extra money, but my husband was like, wow, you can join his mentorship and have access to him to do exactly what you want to do, go do it. So I did. And I think he saw something in me before I did, but I was able, I think because of a sales background, I'm able to go out and just talk to people, which to me is the number one top thing when you're talking to people about houses. If you can talk to people and you're truly interested in them, that is literally half the battle. You do not have to say special things. So I think people need to learn how to explain things in a way that doesn't scare people away. But again, the basis is understanding that. So anyway, he kind of took me under his wing because he could see that I was actually going to take action. And he would have taken other people under his wing. It's just what he did. But I learned from him how to say certain things, how to explain deals, how to do the deals, the paperwork to use. And it knowing that someone was back there, if I fouled it up and had a stake in it, made me feel very confident. So I try to do that for other people now because I think that's what helped me grow.
Absolutely. And we call it borrowed belief. Like if they believe in you, your mentor believed in you. So you borrow that belief, it builds your confidence. You get reps in knowing that you have this backstop there. If things go south, you've got a little bit of a, you know, safety net with your mentor, and that gives you the confidence. I love it. You mentioned your background was in sales, and what was it in real estate? Were you an agent, or was it in different types of sales?
Sort of. I did work as a loan officer for a while, in my early 20s, and then I just did a ton of different stuff. But I was a Cutco salesperson in college,
Yeah.
and so that taught me a ton. And that's when I read like I know you guys want to know about books and stuff like that that I like, and I love the Zig Ziglar books because I learned a ton from those, and just how you're not really selling, you're helping people. So yeah.
Yeah, it's I've been in sales my whole career, so you're exactly right. No, you nailed it earlier with just talking to people and genuinely being curious. Like, I think that's either something you are or you're not. I'm like, you're either when you talk to somebody, you're genuinely curious in what they have to say or what they have going on. And if you're genuine with that, then people want to talk to you more and they'll let you go a little deeper with questions. And then you get to the point where you can explain a service you offer, whether it's a knife or it's I'll buy your house and show you how to save on taxes, stuff like that. So, yeah, very good. So you did the 50-50 split for a while, and then it sounds like you kind of, you got the confidence to a point where you could go off and do this on your own. Is that correct? Yeah. So what did the path look like from there? Because I mean, you did it very quickly, but also you did it without compromising. It doesn't sound like being a mom, being a wife, being all the other things in life. You were still able to maintain those at a high level while building this on the side. So what I really want to dive into today is how you were able to accomplish that and kind of how you teach that to your clients now.
It's keeping things simple, I think, and focusing on the things that are going to give you the most return. So when my kids were little, my son was home with me full time. Like we didn't do daycare, and so I worked during naps and when he was playing a little bit. And so it started out small because I didn't have a ton of houses to take care of. It's not like I was running a bunch of stuff for a big business at that point in time. I had my SEO company, which I had built to a point where I only needed a couple hours a month to maintain that. And so, yeah, it was just making sure that I was focusing on the highest returns, and I didn't have the time to stress about all the tiny little things at that point in time. I'm very systems oriented. So if something was taking time, it was how is there a better system? How can I hand this off to somebody else? And so you asked me how I did that so quickly. I'm not going to say that there were never times I struggled or didn't stay up until 2 a.m. while people in my family were sleeping, trying to make it happen. Like there's a building phase to this for sure, where you're working a lot harder than I am now. But if you can get through that period, then you will reap the rewards. And I look back now, like I have all these pictures of my kids with me in these houses that I was going to. I just hauled them with me when they were little. We worked our way up to where they were in daycare 3 days a week, mostly because they loved it. They loved the socialization. I enjoyed the time to be able to work. And so there was a period where I got, dedicated days to work. But I still made sections of time for my family. And again, it doesn't mean that we didn't sacrifice things because I'm sure we did, but I look back and it was just all part of a journey.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me, I've got one of my favorite videos on my phone is my daughter, her first step. First time she ever walked, in the background, like I'm videoing it, but you can see painters. We were at a rental house that I was fixing up. So my wife had brought her over there, and it was painter's tape on the walls, and see buckets of paint. And here she is taking her first steps. But that's just like, and I'm glad. I'm very happy to hear you say what you just said about no matter what, there is this building phase where it is going to be tough to manage all of this. But if you do it knowing that with with the approach that it sounds like you took, where it's system minded, it's I've just got to get through this grind. But as I do it, figure out how to implement systems so I don't have to keep grinding. Because a lot of people sell this idea of zero down, creative finance, do it. You don't have to do anything, work 2 hours a week, and it just starts like that and stays like that forever. BS. Like it's not that way. And I'm glad to hear you say that. And I would imagine you coach that way as well. You got to grind for some period of this.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
what I try not to do is make everything seem like it's all rosy and 100% great. I do want them to see where I'm at now because it is rosy and awesome. And there's times I roll my eyes at stuff I have to do or whatever, but then I remember how lucky I am to be where I'm at now. You know what I mean? But so I want people to have hope that you can get there, but at the same time, I don't want them to think it's only 2 hours a week the entire time you're building, because that's unrealistic and no one's going to stick with it if that's what they want.
Yep. So for you, the building phase was basically getting from zero to now, I think you said you're over 70 plus doors, whatever it is. It's a big portfolio. So that was to get there. Most of that was the building phase. What was we'll get into your systems, and maybe some of the systems were put in place to help what I'm getting ready to ask, but what was your strategy early on to find deals? How were you sourcing deals? Were you paying for leads? Were you knocking on doors? Like, what was your strategy at that point?
My mentor taught me how to pull lists
Okay.
and how and why. And then I did a lot of direct mail. So I tried it all. I tried door knocking. I tried direct mail. I tried text messaging. I tried cold calling. I did all of the things. Um, and I think I've bought a house for every single one of those. And I've told people they all work if you are consistent with them, all of them. There's no magic in marketing. You can always learn to be better at it, but there's no magic. You just have to be consistent. But for me, I decided to do the one that took the least amount of time from me. Some people don't like it because it can be expensive, but that was direct mail. Why? Because, well, number one, I can systematize it. I can continuously put out the same message. And to me, I got the most, they weren't looky-loos. The people that called that mailer were serious for the most part, right? So I would be able to, every 4 to 6 weeks, I just automated a mailer. It took a couple hours to pull a list, send it to the mail system people that I used, and then they created the postcard for me with what I wanted it to say. They merged all the information, and then it was just scheduled. And then I knew that following week, I would probably take, it wasn't a ton, it was probably between 10 and 20 calls. Wasn't a big deal. I could answer it in the car. I could answer it on the go. I could answer it at my home. And I answered all my own calls because I think that makes a big difference. Yeah. And then I would know that the next 3 weeks, I would go visit a handful of those houses. And then we usually bought one out of that. Right. So it was just I knew the system with that, and it fit into my life.
I'm curious, because I've talked to folks that track it differently. Were you tracking like as far as your outgoing marketing efforts, were you tracking it as a cost per lead or a cost per sale, cost per close?
No, I was so small. I didn't track any of that. I knew it well enough to know. I remember one time, it was my mentor who pulled the list, and he just sent it to me since we were partnering, and I mailed and got almost no phone calls. And I said, did the list change somehow? Did something happen? And he goes, yeah, they changed the way who they were pulling them through. I said, we can't use this anymore. We didn't get a good enough response. And so I knew it well enough to know what we should be expecting. I did not track exacts. And I think that's cool because people think that they have to understand all these things. I think if you're running a huge operation, that's super important. If you're a single person trying to get several deals a year, I don't think you have to worry about that. If you've marketed to something 3 to 6 months and you've gotten nothing, you either need to look at whether or not you need to get your presentation to the person better. You know what I mean? Whether it's something you're doing or if you need a different list.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Obviously, at scale, there precedents start to be set. If I make 1,000 letters or mail 1,000 letters, I'm going to get this much response and blah blah blah. But at the scale you're talking about, I couldn't agree more. You nailed it earlier by saying it just comes down to consistency. So committing to I'm going to mail whatever it is, 1,000 letters a month, every month, no matter what. And if they're not getting results, then I'm just going to make little tweaks here and there until I start getting better results. And it's really all you need to measure early on. I agree with that. Yeah.
Like, it took me 6 months of looking at houses before I bought my first deal. 6 months.
Yep.
And a lot of people would feel like they're doing something wrong. I just kept going and just kept going and just kept learning. And I think that's what people have to understand. They're like, oh, you built it so quickly. Yeah, well, there was a time where there was a lot of action and not a lot of reward.
Yeah.
So, and that's important for people to understand. However, I look back now, during that 6 months, I learned the inside of all of the houses in Colorado Springs. I could look at, MLS photos and know exactly the layout of the house without going into it afterwards. So you're building a foundation during those early times, even when it doesn't feel like there's much reward.
Yeah. And how many would-be Lindseys quit after 3 months of getting no deal or 4 months? I mean, that's a story as old as time where if folks just give up
Yeah.
before they see the compounding of their efforts, and that, and you held on 6 months. You probably would have held on 6 months beyond that before like you were just committed to doing the thing that you believed would get you the results eventually. So you start getting some under contract. Was your intent all along to buy and hold?
So when we very first started, before I knew about the creative investing, it was to flip. My dad had done some stuff with partners. He was an appraiser. And so he had a business with partners where they were flipping and making money. And so that's initially what I thought. I had read another book, and it talked about the lifestyles of the people who did different things in real estate, like flipping and rentals and all that. And because of that book, I decided I wanted to keep them. That's the lifestyle I wanted.
Yep.
I didn't want to have to go out and kill 5 deals a month and then have to repeatedly do that my entire life. I wanted to eventually be able to slow down, and that's what buy and hold does for you.
Yep, absolutely. What a great resource to have on your side, having your dad be an appraiser.
Yeah.
Like, was he an appraiser in the market you were buying in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good resource. That I would imagine. I mean, you probably quickly got it yourself, but early on to run deals by him, kind of as a second set of eyes, had to be a good thing. So
Yeah, he helped me understand, like, how do I adjust for, and my mentor helped with this too. So you do not have to have an appraiser dad to learn this.
right.
You understand how to adjust for the size of the house, different bedrooms and bathrooms, square footage, if a house is like, if it's wheelchair accessible, like some of that stuff you just learn from Exilium.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, also for your dad, what an asset to have a daughter like you that's teaching him about creative finance. I don't know if he ever did anything with that, but that's a pretty cool thing that, as immersed as it sounds like he was in real estate, for you to expose him to that niche of it is pretty cool. So
He didn't end up doing anything. He was not doing investing anymore by the time I started this, but he was my biggest cheerleader.
yeah, that's awesome. So, all right, the big thing I want to start getting into now is, right, you were sourcing the deals, you're getting them under contract, you start segueing into buy and hold mostly. So now you're building a portfolio, it sounds like. But the big thing you did that most people, and you said it in your bio, but most people, this is where they get priorities maybe out of sync a little bit, is they keep building, 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 and they're just building more of a job until either burnout occurs, divorce occurs, your kids aren't ever seeing you, stuff like that. So how did you So first of all, what systems have you been putting in place and continue to put in place and to allow you to do this on your terms, your time, without compromising all the most important things?
Um, I it took me a while to understand that my greatest strength was being a landlord, and most people will cringe at that, but
Mhm.
you can buy a great deal, and if it's not managed well, it quickly turns into a bad deal. And so many, I mean, how many stories do we hear of people going, "Never mind, I don't want to do this. This is not worth this kind of life." Now, some people say, "Well, I'm just going to get it and then turn it over to a property manager." And I'm not bashing all property managers. I personally know and like a lot of them. But they don't run the same system I do. And I was taught that from David Tilney, who learned it from Jack Miller. And those systems and those spot processes, and honestly, yes, I put systems into place, but I think what they taught was leadership. And when you can use that leadership to lead your tenants in the right direction, you do not have the same problems property managers do, or people who do not put a little bit of time into learning the landlording side of things do.
Yeah. So what systematically, how does that leadership skill, and I think you nailed that. When you are managing property, you are a leader. Whether so, and we've got a pretty big portfolio. I have to turn it over to a property manager, and the reason is that I know one of my weaknesses is I'm a very soft landlord. Every sob story I hear, oh, you don't need to pay rent for 5 years, just live there. That's my mentality. So for me, I've had to structure it with property managers, but even with that, you've got to be a leader to them, right? So with this leadership mindset for you actually directly managing them, how do you convert that to a system that doesn't require you to micromanage everything all the time?
Well, I built the system that someone else can run. So currently my system still requires people, which is good because I don't want to become something that doesn't have people and is just talking to a machine. No one loves that. But my assistant, who's virtual, she runs 99% of the back end of my system and just escalates to me when I've told her in those procedures that she should escalate to me. So that's why I'm able to handle that many houses and only work a couple hours a week, because I can have all the information in front of me. It takes me 2 minutes to decide. Now with AI, it's getting even quicker. So, you know, those are the kinds of systems I built. I use a platform called Trello, and it allows you to move a card through a system, and it gives you a set of tasks per each column that you have it in. And that way I'm able to make sure that she's able to make sure, because you can't keep it all in your head. So number one, the most important thing is I used it when I started, when I didn't have an assistant, because the stress comes from having to keep everything you have to do in your head to not forget it, right? So that kept me from being stressed out. Then once I plugged other people into it, the system is so simple, where some of the CRMs out there are not simple at all. It's so simple you can plug contractors who have zero like tech anything into it and they can work it. And I think that's really important.
Trello,
Yeah.
Trello.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check that out for sure. We we are shopping or trying out different CRMs. I'm a hard money lender, so we have a pretty big operation there, but different CRMs for that. And you just nailed it when you said they're all complicated. Like it's so hard to wrap my head around all. And some of them are great, but it's going to take me 2 years just to learn how to operate the CRM that's supposed to be doing this stuff for me. But I digress. So you mentioned your virtual assistant. I wanna hit on this a little bit because I when I think of virtual assistants, a lot of people think of them like as a side component to their business. It can be like I would imagine you look at your assistant as an employee, a part of your team, right? Is that how you view it?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and so talk about, number from an efficiency standpoint, how valuable virtual assistants can be, but also like if you do your research and connect with the right agencies or virtual assistants through whatever platforms you connect with them. There are some powerful people out there that wherever they live, whatever country it is, but it might be cost effective for you to pay them, but you can make them live like kings wherever they're at. And really appreciate being a part of a team. So talk about how you approach virtual assistants from a cultural mindset, you know.
I mean, I treat mine as a part of the team, like you said, and I try to motivate her the same way I would try to motivate students. And I tell her how important she is. And it's one of those things, she is so important that I'm like, if you ever have to leave, help me train the next person. I will pay you handsomely for doing that. I'm good enough to my assistants that I typically keep them on an average of 5+ years. So it's not like I have a lot of turnover in that way, but things happen. I know one girl I had, she wouldn't have quit, but she got cancer. And so things happen in life and sometimes people have to leave. But I know I've heard people constantly talk about, how do you hire? Like, how do you find someone you can rely on? And they have trouble getting the right people in. And I'm not going to say it was striking gold from day one. I had to learn how to be an employee leader. I had to learn how to write the correct version of what I needed from them before I even hired them to attract the right people, right? I didn't even know what I needed in the beginning. I just did it. That didn't work out. Course corrected, did it again. Now I'm much better at understanding how to write those job applicant, like what I need from them, what they should have, what they shouldn't have. The cool thing about people now, they have AI to do this with them, right? If you put the right stuff in there, it's going to make your job description much more clear than I ever was. So hopefully that will make the process a little bit less painful for most people.
Yeah, and I'm trying, like most people, I'm trying so hard to embrace AI as a positive thing, right? And because it can be, it will be. There's some scary components to it, but it's all happening so quickly. But I would imagine a business like yours, or even a business like ours, there I'm overwhelmed a lot by AI. So I just kind of go, I just can't think about it right now, you know, and I keep kind of kicking it down the road where it's probably, and I'm curious to know, like, you may be a little more tech savvy, so you might understand it, and it might be, very intuitive to you. But for me, it's almost to a point where I almost want to hire someone like a consultant to come in and dissect my business and show me how AI can plug different holes I might have or something like that. Have you thought about AI or how you plan to use AI moving forward?
I'm taking classes.
Okay.
I'm taking different classes, following different people, watching what can be done with it because I think it's super powerful. And I am not going to say I'm an expert at all. I've just started creating things that can help. So it's just little tiny things, but I really, really want to be able to provide these things for people that learn from me that will cut their learning process shorter. So like one of the things that I built in Claude was you can put all the documents you have for a tenant and it will tell you, it doesn't tell you yes or no. It just brings up all of the things that I would look at as a potential negative. So for instance, I don't always go by credit score. We do have some people with fairly low credit scores because other stuff is perfect. So I put all of those variables into this and I've been testing it. And the other day it pulled out, I looked at it on my own for this applicant and said, okay, I don't like this, 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 and this, put it into Claude and it came out and said, oh, you got to watch this, this. And it did all the stuff that I would have visually, which was great because being able to hand that over to an assistant, especially if they're new, is awesome. And it didn't say no. It says you need to collect this and you need to get an explanation for this and understand why this. And if too many things are negative, it says, okay, escalate this to Lindsey. And then I can create a judgment on whether or not they fit or not in our world, but it just shortens the time frame. Instead of spending 10 to 15 minutes looking at all that, you feed it into AI and your assistant does it and says, here's the red flags.
Yep.
And I can then decide whether or not that's okay or we need more information or it's a no.
Yeah. And your involvement, so you've, as if you scale any further, you have that component, which basically allows you to continue scaling without adding as much staff, but it also allows you to continue scaling where you're, what you just said, your only involvement after building it, but your only involvement is that last step that comes to you to say, I see that, yay or nay. And that's it, you know, and that's great. So now, you know, you've been at it for 10 years. So you said 2016 was when, you know, things started rolling. So you've been through the grind. You've now set it up in a way that is more passive than it is active. I mean, you're still active, but your activities are a couple hours a week, you said. So it sounds like that you don't want to sit stagnant. So you're now channeling what I gather your energy into teaching folks and mentoring folks the same way you were or others did for you. So speak to that a little bit, kind of what, number one, what motivated you to go towards the coaching route more than the continuing to grind and build properties? And then number two, how you have structured that, the kind of different, do you have different levels, things like that? So.
Yeah. As a lot of people will tell you, you get to a point where you have enough, and we still buy, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to be as active in that. I don't find as much satisfaction from that as I do from building a company that teaches people how to do it. I love it. Bill Cook basically dragged me into this going, you're going to teach, and it's fine because I love it. And being able to see when you help someone through something or see someone get a deal because you helped them through it is really cool. Or see people who are able to live more of their life because you've taught them how to build systems and a business that they run instead of a business that runs them, is awesome. And I love that part. So I'm able to do that while living more of a life versus continuing the grind.
Yeah. Are you structuring? I mean, obviously, you've said it a couple times, kind of along. You like the human component of it all. So I would imagine as you teach, you're still having that human connection with them through one-on-one calls or something like that. But are you also systematizing it in a way, just like you did with your real estate portfolio, where there is a lot of automation and resources available to them without you having to be on a call all day, every day with different clients?
Absolutely. So over the last 5 years, I've built 6 different courses. And so those courses are there for people to go learn them. And so that's the automated part. They go and learn them. All the paperwork is there, all of that. So the one-to-one portion of it is more, okay, when are they confused about the next step? And I can help break that down from, okay, you're all over the place. Here's your one next step. Go pull that list until the next time we talk. Then we'll talk about mailing it out. But your only job, because people get so overwhelmed, one thing I'm good at is breaking it down into going, okay, what's just the next thing I need to do? And so if I can do that for other people, they're able to break it down a little bit and calm down and go do the next step instead of worrying about the whole elephant, right? One
Yeah.
at a time.
Yes, one domino at a time, and they gradually push over bigger dominoes. So, I would imagine as a coach, so I coach a lot of sports. I have not done any. I've done some mentorship in real estate, but never. We don't have a formal coaching platform. But I would imagine that you, while you probably have a lot of students that come, they do everything you say perfectly, and then they go on and they're set their sails and they're off doing what you did. You also have a lot of folks, and we see this, you know, in and around different groups we're in, but folks that just pay the money expecting it to happen, like expecting you to lay everything out on a platter and all they got to do is just show up and pay the money and they're going to have 70 plus houses. Do you see that quite a bit? And you know, the the clients that come to you looking for a cure to wherever phase of life they're in, and they're just expecting it to happen.
It's out there.
Yeah.
So the coaching side of this just started.
Okay.
Before that, I was just selling the courses. And what I noticed is that there would be people who never went through them. I started then doing Q&As after as bonuses. So they would have a certain number of Q&As after they purchased the course. That way they would get through the course so they could go to the Q&As and actually have questions answered. Then I started noticing more people actually going through the courses. Then on the Q&A calls for the ones that showed up, they were actually moving and doing things and marketing and actually taking action. So that's where my platform, the way I built it, came from, was actually watching what was working for people. And yes, there's those people out there. Everyone has to go through an interview with me before they come in, and that's not what I want in the group. And I will straight up tell them, if this is what you're expecting, it just is not going to happen. So don't waste your money.
Right. Yeah. I mentioned I mentored a few folks, but I got to a point where, you know, I I was probably overwhelming them with information a lot. Like, these are the things you need to do and stuff like that. But there was no accountability component. So once I started telling folks, yes, I'll meet you for lunch and we'll go over things, but I need you to read when we meet for lunch. I need you to read this book or go listen to this podcast, and then be ready to discuss that when we meet. And if I meet them and they haven't done any of that, then I know that they're not in a good position to be mentored by me, where you kind of give them a test, right at the beginning. But yeah, it it is one of. I'll share a quick story with you. So when we started about 4 years ago, when we started the lending company, we reached out to a very prominent CEO of a big lending company, and we had met them at a networking event. But through conversation, we ended up just in agreement that they would mentor us or kind of consult us for our first year, right? So they would kind of hold our hand and help us build things out. And early on in the process, I asked her, I said, why? I'm just curious why you're doing this. You don't need to do this. You don't need the money. It was very minimal. It was pennies what we were paying for it. And I said, you are literally building a company, helping to build a company that's a direct competitor to you. Why are you doing this? And she said, at this stage in her life, she said, there's enough sunshine out there for everybody. And my legacy is, if I can teach you how to do it and you teach 10 people how to do it, that's my legacy. And I absolutely love that abundance mindset. And it sounds like you're probably coaching people right there in the same market as you sometimes, I would imagine. So,
Oh, yeah, all the time. And to me, I'm like, well, maybe I can partner, or maybe they need my help or something like that. And I'm completely happy to do that too. So, and there is enough for everybody. I promise you that.
yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, if you look at this game of real estate or any business as I mean, we're all competitive, like everybody has egos and stuff like that. But if you look at it as this massive competition where it's just crabs in a bucket, like, that's a scarcity mindset. That's not sustainable. But the way you're doing it, I love it. So where can folks find out more about your coaching platform and other resources you might have and stuff like that?
They can go to cleverkittyinvesting.com.
Okay.
Any of my socials like YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, all are under Clever Kitty Investing, which is not something that there's a lot of because it's an odd name, which is why I chose it. so,
I like it.
so those are all very searchable and findable, and that's where you can find out more.
Yep. So we'll drop those links down in the show notes. Where at this point, now that you have all the systems developed and you're building out the coaching, and you're going to systematize that for sure, where that's doesn't require much of your time. Where do you see your energy flowing uh, for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Eventually your kids are going to be out of the house and all that. So where does all the energy go as you continue advancing?
We'll probably never quit buying houses, but I'm hoping a lot of it goes into being able to teach others how to do this. I got tired of seeing people getting hurt because of the way certain people out there are teaching people to do some of these creative strategies. And it's hard to sit there and get mad at it when you're not helping it. So that's part of where that comes from. I grew up listening to people like Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and Tony Robbins and all of those people. And I believe that stuff made a huge difference in my life. And so I'm not saying I'm up there with them, but if I can make a difference in the real estate world where people truly believe that they can move into a place where they get what they want, and that doesn't mean money, it means the freedom to be with their kids at night, the freedom to be able to sleep because they're not worried about bills. I know what I wanted in the beginning and what I ended up getting and being and wanting more was more of that freedom to live the life I wanted versus all this other stuff that doesn't matter. Does that make sense? So my help people get to that point where they're living the life they truly love, that's where I want my energy.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great mission. I'm glad you mentioned that because there's a lot of folks, a lot of courses, a lot of gurus, whatever you want to call it, in the creative finance space, the sub-2 space, all of that. And I agree with you that, like, the strategy itself, whether it's sub-2 or seller finance or whatever it is, the strategy is a good strategy. I think it gets taught irresponsibly sometimes. And, where some of these strategies are for 5, 10, 20-year experts in the industry that understand all the nuance and how to mitigate risk when you're doing a sub-2 and leaving enough equity and all of that. But you teach somebody right out of the gate that, oh, you can get into everything zero down and not have to work a day, a week. That's setting a lot of people up for failure. And I love what I'm hearing from you, how you teach this, with the right mindset and approach. So I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Yep. And it's been great getting to know you. And you're out in Colorado Springs, so almost all the way across the country from us here in Virginia. But yeah, and I like to share, kind of as we wrap up real quick, this is a collaboration with myself and Jim Ingersoll and his brand, Dealmaker. So what is your connection to Dealmaker and Jim Ingersoll?
My mentor, Mike Jake, knew Jim from years ago, so I got introduced to him that way. And then Jim had me speak at Dealmaker last year, and I loved the people he attracted. So I liked his energy. I loved the people he attracted. I think we just bonded on that very much.
Yeah, Jim's fantastic. He has an ability he's a magnet to good people, and I love being around it. Yeah, and fortunately for me, him asking me to host this podcast, I get to meet a lot of people, albeit virtually most of the time, but that I otherwise probably wouldn't have met. So, and with you, that's the same thing. So I appreciate you taking the time today, sharing your thoughts and expertise. We're going to drop all your links down in the show notes below. Encourage everybody to check you out if they want, because we've just scratched the surface today on creative finance and systems, but obviously you can break it down into much more detail through your platforms and stuff like that. So yeah. Well, thank you. Yep. And it was good talking to you, good meeting you, and we will talk soon. Thank you, Lindsey. That wraps up this episode of the Dealmaker Catalyst. If you want to keep learning from elite operators and plug into a national community that lives this stuff every day, check out Dealmaker Catalyst. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's serious about leveling up. And we'll see you on the next Dealmaker Catalyst.